everybody, it is Eva here. You all usually know me as Sister Psycho, but today I'm speaking as myself, Eva.
Hey everybody, it's Tanisha. You better know me as Darkangel.
Oh, Michael here. Usually I'm the Rev.
And today we are joined by a special guest out of PA. I actually found him on Twitter. He retweeted one of our last episodes and I was intrigued, so we reached out and made a connection. And he is going to tell us a little bit about himself.
Hello, I'm Jim Malliard, host of the Malliard Report, co-founder of ITalkParanormal. Been investigating, let's see, what year is this, 2020? So, 12 years, I guess it is. Been investigating the paranormal. Started with some intrigue because my son was talking to something that we couldn't see in Gettysburg, and then I guess it's kind of spins out of control. I'm sure we can get into more of that here after a bit. And then in 2011, I started a podcast about the paranormal, and I guess that's kind of spun out of control a little bit too, but it just seems to be how things go around here. So that's the brief overview of me. I'm sure we'll get into more details as we get going here.
So what kind of questions do we have, guys? I know we are getting ready to go into ghost hunting ourselves once we are all out of quarantine and everything. So what kind of information are we looking for?
I think first, right now, we're getting some of our equipment together. What are some good starter? What's some good starter equipment to have when you're first going out there? And
I would say probably either a camera or an audio recorder, because that becomes really clean and definable. There's a whole bunch of fancy stuff that like Ghost Box and other things. Ghost Box gives me a headache. I guess I should clarify. That's probably part of the reason I'm a little biased against it. But pictures or video gives you a look in to where you were. If you experienced something, you can kind of piece it back and see if something else was happening that you didn't notice, or after something happened and you could see if something else happened. So, and plus it's kind of the standards of when people post things, because temperature spikes and drops and EMFs are kind of harder to explain to people that aren't necessarily neck deep into it.
Okay, excellent. Oh, go Darkangel, you got something?
No, you go ahead.
I just, what would you say was the most intense experience so far in your ghost hunting?
Oh, well, see, here's the thing. Here's the other thing I need to tell you guys at this point, since you haven't been. The intensity probably happens before you start investigating, or on your way, like afterwards. Like when you get there and get set up, that's probably the least likely time you are to experience anything. As soon as you tear everything down and start out the door, that's when strange things start to happen, or right before you get everything set up. So there's that moment, and there's also moments like, I guess the strangest moment or most intense moment I had was I was talking to myself, I guess, and I looked down at the end of the bed because I was laying in the bed, and I seen somebody leave the room. And I was just, like I said, I was just laying at home, and I went, so was I, because we all have these conversations with different things with ourselves, but my conversation with myself dramatically changed after the person left the room.
So, yeah, like things like I know people say they see shadow people. I remember I lived in this one house where I was actually bumped, like something actually bumped into me. That was pretty freaky. And
there's no picture, video, or anything that can bring that back to you either. That's the other part of this, right? The best personal experiences are just that, personal experience.
Be like Aaron of Ghost Adventures. Everything's always shoving into him,
Yeah, well, you all got to remember that's the innate need something to happen. So that's the
right.
We were actually just discussing that in a previous episode.
Pushing the drama, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
something doesn't
drama entertainment, because I don't know about Ghost Adventures, but I know ghost hunters are on site for 3 days when they film somewhere. So you get 47 minutes of runtime based on them being there for 3 days. So
same thing. They're usually there 3 days.
Yeah, it's probably the standard. I'd imagine Ghost Adventures is there just as long. Just to get the shots the company's looking for is a day. After, if you do the first 2 days of straight up investigating, and then you have to go back in and get because not everybody's looking in the camera when they're talking all the time. Oh wait, that's me too. No.
It's funny. I said 3 days. I'm gonna be burning through vacation time this year. I work full time.
Yeah. But if you're just going for yourselves and not trying to make a 45-minute national TV show, I think you'll be okay.
Yeah. That's what we're doing this to I mean, it's as a hobby, but it's also we're learning, because some of the things, like namely Sis and I, Eva and I have been through. You're trying to understand it. You're trying to understand why, you're experiencing, and what the purpose is. Something like there was this one. I remember this one entity I wanted to. Won't go deep into it, but it actually had a name and everything. It was like, okay, so this thing has a name, but where is it from? It opens up so many questions when it's not a ghost and it's something else.
As my joke goes, there's always more questions than answers. You get one answer for every 5 questions, and then obviously you see how that spins out of control in her.
Are you current? Do you have any current locations you're looking to go to?
No, not really. Well, I mean, obviously, we're coming out of winter, and now we're not really going anywhere, so I haven't really even kind of turned the page to start looking for things. So
yeah, we don't know when we're getting out of this. So
yeah,
anywhere after this is over with this quarantine.
And I was gonna say the hard part is like I don't want to say my house is haunted, but like I said, there have been a number of incidents where something's happened in my house, and now that I'm kind of stuck here, it's sometimes you just kind of lay around waiting for it to happen, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, honestly. So I
guess it depends on what kind of spirit you got. Like, I was living in one house where it was just. It was basically whoever lived there before, combined with me having a rough time with things, I guess, and then you combine that bad energy, and it's like you're fueling it. You're feeding this force, and then things start happening. I've seen doors move. I mean, you name it. It was just yeah.
Yeah, and there's
we can talk all the time. That's just crazy.
I'll just drop this there. They're trying to remember what it's called. That's the good thing. But once energy kind of attaches itself to you, it feeds on the negativity. It creates more negativity, which feeds. It perpetuates a cycle downhill. And I've seen cases pretty much what you're talking about. I'm sure there's probably differences in some details, but it can get brutal for people in a big way in a hurry when these things. I don't want to call them ghosts because I don't believe they are around, and I don't. Sometimes it's hard to break that cycle for sure.
I feel like some of these things are like there's a different. I hate to use the word dimension, but because we're such primitive creatures compared to what could be out there, probably science can explain it down the road. But there's maybe there's another plane of existence, and it ties in with ours.
As I often joke, if we're the top of the pyramid, everywhere, always, like. In the solar system, in any galaxy, anywhere, if we're the top, man, we're messing this up in a big way.
Yeah.
Not only just our planet, but the spirituality and everything. We're just missing so much.
There's so many different things. Like it like you said before, it opened up more questions than answers. It's just even. I was listening to a program once. I don't know if you remember George Norrie and his Coast to Coast AM. They used to come
I've spoken to George a couple times, but I don't know which one. I mean, I don't listen to it often, but go ahead.
I listened to the pre-record, the listening to old episodes, and there was one guy, I wish I would have written his name down. He said that there's beings that can interact in your dreams, and a lot of the times it was like that, and they would, they would show who they were, and it was kind of like a way of like, this is a confrontation, I'm showing you who I am, and what are you going to do about it, and that's where you're really going, whoa, hold on a second, this is beyond my comprehension, how do I handle it? So have you dealt with or talked with anybody that have had those kinds of experiences?
I've talked to people that believe in astral projection, where they can travel while they're sleeping. So I mean there's a lot of variables. I mean, I've had a lot of restless nights thinking about what goes on while people are sleeping, which makes no sense, right? Because, I mean, if you're talking about traveling and visiting people, and like you're talking about having, well, I guess if you're visiting and traveling, there's the potential for the negativity, the anger, the fights. I mean, any of that stuff. So, do I believe it? Somewhat. I mean, there have been some really vivid dreams that I just can't explain otherwise, besides being in a different state and a different place. Now, does it happen often for me? No, I'm a light sleeper, and I really wish I would get to that point where I'd be out more. But then again, I sit around thinking about things. So I don't get to that deep sleep often.
I've had a lot of experiences like that I don't necessarily know that I can say 100% like, oh, I've experienced astral projection, but I've had very vivid dreams that have felt like out-of-body experiences.
Yeah, and then there's the other one. I can think of at least 2 cases where I've had the very vivid dream about something that has later come back true, like deja vu.
Same.
Yes.
And the one is just ridiculous, and I'll share the one with you because it is so ridiculous I can share it. Had some teenagers in the back of my car, which weren't my kids, by the way. So instantly, this is a strange dream off the top. And then the one turns and takes her flip-flop off and thuds the other one. And I seen that in my dream one night, and I woke up and went, what in the bleep is that all about? And then probably 8 years later, sure enough, one of our team members had her and then her 2 daughters in the back seat. Wow! And that same noise and that same everything was the same in the mirror. And I went, what in the heck just happened? Like, I've seen that before. Like, same car, like I've seen this before. Not a good thing to be having while you're driving, by the way.
It'd be interesting if they could explain that, like maybe it has something to do with time and space, and we're able to kind of go ahead, and it just opens up so many questions about what that means. I've done the same thing where you're going past a certain area at a certain time, and you just go, wait a minute, I've been here before, and boom, you go right back to that dream, and you're there.
Yeah. A 45-second instance, 8 years ahead of time, like I've said, it's been probably 6 years since it's happened. I'm still thinking about it, right? So it's for 45 seconds of blip, it's drawn a lot of attention for something that is really, honestly, trivial. Funny, actually, another kid smacking another kid with a flip-flop. But there it was, in reality.
They say that that's a gift. I forgot, isn't it called PS? I don't know if it's PSA or PS something.
Well,
they have
I wish it was something useful though. If it's a gift, I mean, this is kind of this kind of I don't want to say annoyance, but I wish I could see the lottery numbers or something, something that could make the story more steak than sizzle.
Going a little bit off subject a little. What are some of your favorite creatures in that are out there that people investigate? Bigfoot, Mothman.
I like the obscure ones, the ones you don't necessarily hear about, the local ones. Like, I guess the Mothman would probably be like the pinnacle of that chart. The Bigfoot kind of just seems too scattered for me. Like, he's everywhere. The Jersey Devil kind of has his little spot. The Mothman, of course, I'm drawing a blank on other ones at this point, but the ones that have the tight area where they're found. Because, like I said, Bigfoot just seems he's like, is he warm or cold? Because you hear about him in Canada and you hear about him down in Georgia, and you go, not many animals travel that far. Not many animals live like that, especially with that much fur, right? You'd think he'd be a northern animal. But when you hear about him in Georgia, you go, man, I don't know. And there seems to be so many reports. Always what gets me about these is there's so many reports. Everybody has their phones anymore. And we are getting less and less pictures of these things than we have before.
Well, we have drones and we're not seeing anything. It's like, I want to see a drone pull up to a Bigfoot, chewing on a deer. Oh my God, did you see that?
Yeah, eventually you just got to catch him laying down taking a nap somewhere, I think. But I could be wrong. I probably am, but that's just me.
Like those John Keel books, I was really big into those. After the Mothman Prophecies movie, I bought all the John Keel books and just read them all. It's funny because you read the books, of course the movie's going to focus on Mothman, but the books really focused on UFOs, and there were entities, the Mothman was part of it, but mostly they were just focusing on strange people, strange beings, a lot of UFO sightings. So, you couldn't have that in a movie, but the Mothman...
I think the Mothman is the... how do I say this? I'll just go for it. The Mothman is a sexy creature, right? kind of can doll him up a little bit. Aliens still get a bad rap even after like what's the Will Smith movie and all this. I mean, there's been a lot of
Independence Day.
Yeah, there's been a lot of trying to bring them more into. I believe we're getting closer to announcing that. I mean, maybe not after seeing some of the stuff that's gone on with this virus. Maybe we're not as close as I think. But as we continue to put them more and more in pop culture, and just someday it's just going to be like, oh, aliens are here. Oh, I thought they were here for last 10 years. It's going to be like, oh, hi. Get in the back of the checkout line at Walmart. No special treatment.
Aliens, do you have any toilet paper?
They're driving by us right now going, what are they fighting about now? Oh,
yeah.
Why?
They're still not stopping. They're locking their doors as they fly by. Yeah, we're trying to get into this ghost. I mean, once all this craziness clears up, we want to go out there and explore and learn and see if Tanisha's going to scream at one of these. So
no. I'm embracing it because I've never seen ghosts. The only thing that I have connected with is spirit realm, just based off of practices that I use as far as ancestry work, invoking spirits, that kind of stuff. That's the only close I've come to stuff like that, but not like ghosts.
So you just want to see a random one in its natural habitat, so to speak.
Right.
Someone asked me this one time, they said, why are we always seeing bad things? Like, why don't people say they see angels or some kind of beings like that? What would you say to a question like that? Like, why do people always talk about, I saw a demon, or I saw this malevolent spirit, or... Well,
there's a real simple answer to that. It's easier to blame bad stuff on something else than blame it on an angel, right?
Exactly.
So that's what I always wanted to, way back, I wanted to cut a promo for my show saying, you've reached 1-800 Angel Hunters, how can I help you? And the guy says, if it's got the house looking on the honor roll, I got a big promotion at work today. Sir, what's the problem? I just want my whole life back. Everything's going, remove these angels from my life. That's kind of why we don't hear about them, because nobody ever says, man, my life's going too well. Must be angels.
Yeah, so that was a question proposed to me, like, probably because I've seen, I saw things, like I said, good things when I was younger, but then I had a point in my life where things were kind of rough in my 20s, and just seeing all these, seeing bad things and experience. So do you think like these, like you said, these spirits they're attracted to that?
Yeah, negative draws negative, right? I mean, that's why the people that are the biggest drama always have people around them doing the same thing. Negative energy draws negative energy, and there's just it turns into a bad thing. And so if something like it just, that's why it's hard to explain. But one thing, if you can just even make simple moves forward out of a negative zone, I know we're not necessarily talking about that, but just kind of distancing yourself from a little negativity and turn the momentum around, that's how you get out of these things. There's no amount of prayers, incense, exorcisms that'll change anything. You have to be the change that you want in your life. I know this is kind of not where you were headed, but we're going there, I guess.
Ouija boards. We think about Ouija boards.
I was curious about that as well.
Okay, so here's my deal. I don't like to spell, so Ouija boards aren't my friend. So we'll say that up front, okay? Now, Ouija boards are just a tool that you use to connect with the other side. It's just like using a recorder or a ghost box or anything else that you really put, and you ask a question to. You're putting yourself out there. It doesn't matter if you're touching it or not. You're opening yourself up to the spirits, this other side. So unless you want to, like I said, it's not my cup of tea. I've used them, but I have not got anywhere because it's not my cup of tea. I don't think they're inherently evil. I mean, that if I was going to say that, everything we talked about would have to be inherently evil. They get a bad rap because they're all. I mean, it's a great thing for a movie, again, to show the kids playing with it, and the next thing you know, there's a monster walking over their shoulders, because that kind of has become the stigma and the easy stereotype to show people.
I feel like part of the reason Ouija boards have a bad rap too is because it's a tool that a lot of people don't take seriously, because it's marketed as like a toy, as a game. Because I've used Ouija boards plenty of times, but it's never been successful except once, because the people I was with were not taking it seriously. One time I did have successful use, and it was terrifying. It was not a good experience for me. But
that goes for your investigations too. If somebody in your group isn't taking it seriously, that's how it's just going to play out the same way.
Right.
So be aware of that. And the other thing is not only taking it seriously, but at the end of the day, if there's 4, 5, 6 of you going, if you don't trust everybody in that group, I don't want to say like with your life, I mean, that's a little bit extreme, but if you divide up into 2 groups and the one comes back with this great story and you don't trust them, it's going to cause a conflict, and it's probably going to end your night and probably your group. Just for the record.
No Ouija boards, guys.
Well,
I have one.
I think everybody has one. There's a bunch of people that have more than one. I'd be interested to know what the average number, like how many Ouija boards are in America. I'd love to know that number. I bet you there's more Ouija boards than people.
In fact, you can just get them in like Toys R Us, you know. Well, I don't know if you can't get them all. But all my experiences with Ouija boards have been bad. You know, I even did one at that house, and sure enough, that spirit spoke right through that thing. And I said, "Well, this thing's over."
Well, like, again, I mean, what were you expecting, though? I mean, that's the thing, right?
Right.
I mean, you go into a bad situation, kind of figure you're going to get a bad situation out of it. As the judicial system says, don't lead the witness. Well, that's kind of where we're at with some of these.
It's like, how can we make this experience worse? I know.
I prefer pendulums. I think that's as close as I've come to spirit contact is using pendulum. Pendulums are just as scary.
Yeah. Like I said, it's still in your hand. It's still connected. You're still putting that energy out. It's just a different method of delivery.
Yeah.
And I've seen some strange things with pendulums too.
Yeah.
And I like both the pendulums, the Ouija board, and dowsing rods, because at the end of the day, there's no battery in there. So there's no quote-unquote false positives because of electricity. Of course, when I try to hold dowsing rods, my hands start to shake, so that makes all sorts of fun things. But
how do you go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, how do you handle the naysayers and the people who are like, that's not real, that's ridiculous, and all of that kind of stuff?
Well, you just got to remember, you're never going to convince them that to believe in something they don't believe in. It's kind of like politics. We all see those people that believe one way or the other. I'm not bashing either side here, but they're just there, no matter where there is. And so you just say thanks, but I'm going to do my thing. And there are going to be some people that probably don't talk to you as often because you believe or want to believe in the paranormal or investigating the paranormal. And then you'll find other people that come in and say, oh, that's pretty interesting. Let's talk about that. So sadly, I know that too much, but not, that's just like anything you do. Politics, religion, money. If you start talking about those things, you're going to find people that love you for talking about them and hate them otherwise. So, because at the end of the day, paranormal borders on religion, or is the first layer under religion. Depends on how you look at things. But either way, it's in that category. There
is a spiritual aspect to it to a degree.
I mean, obviously you have to believe in something you can't see, if it's a ghost or a god or whatever. However, like I said, you can spin that any way you want to go. So there's that leap of faith into something that, for those skeptics who want to, touch everything in the planet, well, they just can't get around that.
Yeah, it's like if they don't physically see something, but I mean, if we all see that, we could see a ghost right here. I mean, it'd be all over the news, and then people would be, oh, that's a hoax because we have this technology that can create this.
Right.
And,
yep. Like I said, there's no convincing anybody that's not convinced already. No video, no picture, nothing that you can show them, and minus having them have an experience. And even then, some people will deny it and be like, oh, that was a fluke. That was what, you can just run down the list and they're just not going to believe. And at the end of the day, and that's good for them. And I've had people ask me, what would it take for you to become a non-believer? How can I prove to you that what you're experiencing isn't true? And I said, there's nothing you can show me, just like there's nothing I can show you to make you a believer.
Yeah, you can't take them out in a ghost hunt and just go, I'm not seeing anything, I'm not hearing anything.
Oh, like I said before, anytime that goes back to that trust and the expectations, right? If you go out in a ghost hunt expecting not to see anything, 99.9% of the time, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to see anything. That one time in 100, you're going to trip and fall and hit your head and then see something. No.
You think our minds can let's say I'm a non-believer. Let's say could the mind project? Like if you're imagining a ghost, an old woman, and okay. I'm thinking that in my mind. If I go on a ghost hunt, you think my mind could project that and say, "Oh yeah, I saw a ghost and it was an old lady." If I'm thinking of it ahead of time, do we have people say anything like that, or?
I think it's possible to bring your quote-unquote own baggage with you, right? If it's a negative entity from your house or somebody you've been thinking about, a family member, or just a random old lady spirit kind of, it's very possible to bring that with you. And since you're looking, your mind is a little bit more open to it. And I don't want to say it plays tricks on you, but again, if you're looking for Grandma Sue and she's there, well, why is she at my house? She's your grandma.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
She has no connection to my house, but she's here. So you feel then, but that keeps that going in your mind. Is she with me, or was she at that complete stranger's house? And then you just it just becomes, like I said, more questions than answers. But eventually, it's just more questions than answers. It doesn't matter how many of them you've done. It just becomes more specific questions or more wide-facing questions. I don't think it ever gets any better.
If there's one horror-related place you could visit that you haven't, where would it be?
Boy, that's a loaded question. I would see. Well, I guess they've stopped doing ghost hunts, so I guess I'll go there. The Stanley Hotel. I don't know. It's just kind of a cool place to, like Colorado would just be a place to go anyways. So off the cuff, we'll go there.
Pennsylvania, Dracula's Castle, of course.
There's the Winchester House. What's that one closed up? I don't know what is this. It was an old tuberculosis clinic out west somewhere. It was out in the middle of nowhere, I think. It's been on a few shows. I don't know. I can't remember the name of it. Yeah. I know Ghost Adventures were doing it, and they did their own shtick on that, but there's been other shows that have done that one, and that one seems pretty interesting.
So let's turn to question, though. Is there one place you wouldn't go? Because I mean, because honestly, that's kind of unfair to pick one. Sorry, what'd you say?
I wouldn't go back to that house I was living in with that one thing. I left it. I said, you know what? I'm out. I'm tempted to go back just to see who lives there and say, hey, are you having any issues? I don't want to sound like a weirdo, but are you experiencing the paranormal here? But have
you ever seen the movie Ghostbusters? No.
Did they shoved you or slapped you or anything? Or
did you call the Ghostbusters? No.
Someone told me that's the house we should investigate, and I said, I don't think you're going to get me within 2 feet of that house.
I don't know if there's a place that I wouldn't go. I can't really think of a place that I wouldn't go. I mean, I'm
trying to answer my question. No, I can't either. I mean, I guess as a practical question, I don't investigate cemeteries at all. I just believe that's a peaceful place, so I guess that'd be my easy out.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So. There's that old cemetery over in Tremont by my parents' house, but that's like really old. But then again, it's not isolated enough to do anything.
I just feel we send people there to rest. We should let them rest, and not to say stuff doesn't happen there. I mean, but I don't know. There's so many other great places to go, and investigating outside, it kind of doubles down your outside noises and your weird reflections and all sorts of things anyways. And then especially if the quote unquote modern granite stones that are polished out, you can get some really weird reflections anyways. So I'm just saying pass.
Favorite cryptid?
I'm sticking with Mothman. I think we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. I just think it's fascinating. Maybe it's because he's semi-local, right? Because you're from Ohio, I'm from Pennsylvania. He's down there in Point Pleasant, and he just seems to have the story, right? Like the the one time, one place kind of deal.
Yeah, there's like a tragic story surrounding that.
Yeah.
You know, with the bridge, the silver bridge.
Yeah. Now, if he started showing up everywhere, I'd be like, just like Bigfoot, like, oh.
Yeah. Another Mothman sighting in Milwaukee. We don't know why. Awesome. Yeah, so we're getting started. We're getting started soon, and we're gonna hit the field, so to speak, and so I'm really glad
because it's really fragile time. No.
I'd like to see if maybe we could down the road too have some compare some stories, even, and compare some hunts.
Yeah. Obviously, I sit around and talk too much, as my wife says. So yeah, we could probably figure that out.
Excellent. Well, you guys have any more questions, or?
Yeah, you mentioned that your son had experience.
So way back, let's see, 2008, 7. We went on our late honeymoon. He was probably 6 or 7 months old. So we went to Gettysburg and we did this haunted cellar ghost story kind of thing. Kind of cool, right? And there was us, the 3 of us, and this other couple in the front row, and then nobody. Like this big empty basement. There's the storytellers, normally I could tell there's probably seats for 50, and there's 5 of us, right? It's the middle of the week. So he starts telling these stories. I'm listening. It's a good time, right? He's a great storyteller. And then my son starts babbling off at something. And I'm like, that's weird, because he normally did it for brief moments, not a lot. And as he kept going, and then the storyteller started talking, he must see the spirit of the child that was run over by the stagecoach after the Civil War. And, he starts telling this great story. And I'm listening to the story with one ear, and I'm kind of watching him, and he's kind of looking off, in the direction that there's nobody at, and he's still just going. And obviously I'm hearing this story about the child and da-da-da-da-da. They have toys in this middle island for the child to play with and all this other stuff. And then, so he gets done and starts into this, don't forget you can stay here, da-da-da-da-da. And he's like, okay, so he wraps up his official story, right? I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, I got to know, though. Do you mind if you guys hang out for a few minutes? I just got to try something. I'm like, sure, whatever. We're just kind of... He gets his dowsing rods out, and he starts asking about if the child's here or whatever. And when he does, the hair on the back of my neck stands up. Like, whoop. And my son stops talking. I'm like, ping bang. And then he doesn't get anything on the dowsing rods. And I went... He's like, I guess the spirit's left. And I normally just kind of laugh that off, right? Because... his show's over, so to speak, and my son's, just random connection. But when the hair stood up in the back of my neck, it kind of, again, left me thinking a little bit more. And then the next day, we went out, I still kind of rattling this through my head. We were up on top of Devil's Den, which is a rock formation kind of overlooking a little creek. And we were up way, way too far away from the car, actually. And we're taking pictures and whatnot. And I see a reenactor. And I'm like, bleep, yeah, I want to get a picture of me and him, my son, and this would be cool. So I proceed to take off to grab him because he's headed down towards the parking lot. I want to grab him so we can get this picture. I don't take my son with me. And I get to where I thought he was, and I look, and he's not there.
Oh, wow.
And I went, where'd he go? It's one way. Like the road that goes up by is one way in, one way out. He would have had to have drove by. So I start down around the parking lot, figuring he's, changing out of his costume, whatever. Can't find him. I start talking to people down there, and they're like, looking at me like I'm like smoking something, because they're like, no, we haven't seen we haven't seen any all day, let alone down here. No, he was just, I'm going for it. And somebody finally says, you've seen a ghost. And I'm like, no, I've seen a reenactor. And I'm thinking we're probably going to get kicked out of the park at this point, because I'm like livid. Because this, somebody's not telling me the truth. This guy, he's here. Who's not telling, So, coming back on the way home from Gettysburg, which is probably 5-hour drive. It was a long drive. Next day, thinking about the 2 back-to-back days of seeing something that just wasn't quite right. And then, obviously, being the type of person I am, I started asking people, have you ever seen a ghost? And then you're like, yeah. I'm like, well, tell me. And then I found enough people that seen some that made me go, there might be something to it, so I need to look again. So then we've started the team, and I guess I haven't stopped looking since. So like I said, more questions and answers every time you get.
Any parting comments before we end the episode?
Oh yeah, I probably should promote my show for a second if I can. Malliard.com. You could come over and check out. I've done interviews with all sorts of paranormal people through the years, like Dr. Barry Taft, Lloyd Auerbach. These are some older ones. Lloyd Auerbach, a bunch of psychic mediums, a bunch of team founders. You just got to come over. Halfway down on the right side of the search bar, you just start searching things. You'll find anybody you're looking for, paranormal related. So I guess I should do that. Final thoughts: just be careful, be mindful. Don't go out and be an idiot, and you'll be okay. Right? That's kind of good life advice, let alone being a paranormal investigator advice.
Well, we really appreciate you coming out and spending time with us and sharing your experiences, and hopefully we can chat again really soon.
Well, you know where to find me, I think. You found me the first time. Keep finding me.
Yes.
Eva stalks people on Twitter, so she'll love it.
I'll tell you, Twitter is a great way to find people. It legitimately opens doors to anybody. Well, most anybody.
Right. Well, thank you for joining us. And everybody, thank you for watching. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.